40 men and women working for the well-being of children in Western, Eastern and Central Africa met in the Senegalese capital for a workshop to share and exchange experiences. This important meeting was held from December the 7th to December the 9th, a co-organization of the regional offices in West and East Africa of the international NGO Save the Children. At the heart of the discussions, how to strengthen child protection in African Union peace support operations in both parts of the continent.
It's bringing around 45 participants from East and West Africa who are going to share knowledge and share their challenges and experiences in child protection work. The meeting brings together about 45 participants who are different actors that are working in peace support operations. Some of these actors include people from the government, people from the peace support operations missions, such as the military, we have the police, we have the civilian component. We also have people from the humanitarian actors like Save the Children, like UNICEF, like World Vision that are represented in the meeting.
The reason we are gathered here in Dakar is because we are implementing a project with the African Union and other regional mechanisms to strengthen child protection within the African Union peace support operations. Basically, the project looks at three main areas. Addressing the challenge of lack of data or lack of information or tracking mechanism or monitoring mechanisms on the kind of trainings that have been conducted and what is the effectiveness.
The many theaters of conflict in Africa directly challenge the countries involved, but also the African Union. Apart from efforts to bring peace, the situation of children in these hostile areas is a matter of concern to the Continental Organization. To better address this aspect, the African Union has provided a directorate dedicated to the protection of children directly attached to the Peace and Security Department.
Partout où nous avons des conflits, que ce soit en Somalie,
wherever we have conflicts, whether in Somalia, in Sudan, in Central African Republic or in Burundi, you will see that children bear most of the brunt. They are mutilated, killed, abducted, used by armed groups, and young girls oftentimes are subject to sexual abuse. So this is a major concern, and this is the priority of the African Union. That's why some programs have been set up to interact. That is why some programs have been set up to interact with member states, but also non-governmental institutions such as the Save the Children, so we can come up with the proper response regarding the situation of children.
In its mission of peacekeeping deployed in Somalia, the African Union has placed special emphasis on the child protection component, aware of the plight of these fragile and innocent people in these countries still plagued by violence from armed groups.
Over the years, because of the protracted nature and of the war, a lot of armed groups in the mission or in the country have been using children as fighters or in other capacities that we will call child soldiering. So to remove them from those ranks is really a difficult thing for now, but generally we are trying because we have been engaging with the various stakeholders. We are making a lot of community awareness programs by engaging the youth, religious groups, and then government ministries, at least to help in removing the children from the ranks of those armies. And then we are also taking unnecessary precaution as a mission to limit collateral damage that will cause injury or mayhem to children. I think those are some of the basic things that we are doing, and our troops are being trained and sensitized on protection needs, and especially giving them practical tools as to how they respond to incidences or emerging unforeseen circumstances.
So we can say that with the help of its partners, AMISOM is still fighting to secure Somalia and ensure a peaceful future for children. The hope of reaching the end of the tunnel one day is huge. For its part, Ivory Coast, which also experienced a decade of instability, managed to lift its head and above all to bring back the thousands of children affected by conflict to a normal life. At this meeting of experience sharing, the Ivorian case has attracted much attention.
L'entrée des enfants en scène date de 2002, c'est-à-dire
children got to center stage with the crisis of 2002. In other words, when the war broke out in Ivory Coast, with the UN reports, we learned that there were more than 4,000 children who took the weapons. Some report will state 30 or 40,000 children, but we'll just say 4,000 children, and since 2002, Ivory Coast was assisted by organizations such as Save the Children and UNICEF, which decided to tackle the matter by removing them the front lines. This action worked up to 2004 because the children were put in transit centers, and we told them that the war was over since there was the ceasefire and the two camps were talking to each other. Confidence between the two camps were restored, so the time was ripe until 2004 with the Operation Dignité sparked the fight once again. Children were kept in transit camps, so they had to leave the transit center to go back to war, which means that you cannot tell children one thing and its opposite at the same time. They are neutral beings and we have to be careful with them. Once they got back in 2004, so UN told us that we were using children in armed groups, so we were put in that famous list, as I was saying earlier in my presentation, which we call the shame list because Ivory Coast is a land of peace, which does not deserve to be put in such a list, especially when it comes to children. Children should not be used in battlefields, which is not the place where they are supposed to be. We were the ones who called that list the list of shame. We decided to demobilize the same year with the support of Save the Children, UNICEF and UNOC. We were eventually withdrawn from the list in 2008. Just to say that we started withdrawing before 2008, but the United Nations has a system, so we were declared delisted in 2008.
On avait déjà commencé avec l'appui bien entendu de Save the Children et UNICEF et bien entendu ONUC. Finalement, on a réussi en 2008 à quitter la liste.
A success held by all participants, but it would not have been possible without the support and assistance of several child protection organizations in the foreground, such as the international NGO Save the Children. As in Ivory Coast, all over Africa, the organization has designed military training modules geared to the protection of children in conflict zones.
Les formations que nous leur proposons sont beaucoup plus ancrées sur la protection des enfants.
The training we give them focus more on the protection of children. All in one, we can say that we train them on the way to know a child, how to communicate with a child, how to intervene when they know that there's a gender-based violence on children, how to refer a child when they know that he has been the victim of violence or sexual abuse, to what centers should they take the children, and especially how should they integrate the protection of children in their daily training and behavior. We do not just work with the military, but we also work with the police and the gendarmerie, and we receive the same testimonies all the time. Today, the behavior, the way they look at children has changed a lot, and for us, this is a positive point.
Et pour nous, c'est un point positif.
3 days of discussions and exchanges of experiences where several participants emerged with great achievements, as illustrated by the example of the representative of the peacekeeping school, Alun Blondin Bay of Mali. He goes back to Bamako with the capital of information that will be very helpful to his institution.
La nécessité d'inclure dans la formation des militaires le volet.
The necessity to include in the training of the military the component management of children's rights during a period of conflict is extremely important, because being a military myself, it is a component on which I want to tap on, and this is going to be the cornerstone of what I will report to. Once I get back home and for my school, I will focus on the need to consolidate the training on child rights and protection.
Le bien fondé de renforcer les formations sur les droits et protections de l'enfant.
Military, civilian, and humanitarian personnel involved in the protection of children in conflict areas have therefore worked to share their experiences. But what will be the outcome of these fruitful exchanges?
Les résultats, je crois qu'ils sont de plusieurs ordres. Il y a d'abord les meilleures pratiques que les uns et les autres ont permis de dégager de par
The outcomes are various. First, we have the best practices, which people help outline with their experiences. There is also the cooperation between the civilians, the military, and the police, which is strengthened.
Qui se voit renforcée. Et il y a aussi des résultats liés au fait que on pourra, à partir de là, mettre en place un système de gestion des connaissances et de partage des connaissances.
There is also the result, which consists in setting up from this meeting a knowledge management and exchange system, all this being important to move forward, and of course with all these actors with their various realities and experiences. This will help us put together our different expertise to make sure that we have more successful outcomes on the ground.
Les différentes expériences et expertises pour faire en sorte que on puisse avoir des résultats plus probants sur le terrain.
The will to work together for a better child protection in African Union peace support operations was strongly reaffirmed during the meeting. But children are the future of the continent and the world. Their well-being is in fact a question that challenges well beyond the players gathered in Dakar.
Conflicts all over the world cost children and societies, and these costs are in the short, medium and long term. They are direct, indirect, but also opportunity costs. Opportunity costs such as delayed learning, delayed earnings, etc. What we are saying to African governments and the world at large is that conflict generates phenomenal cost for everybody. We should therefore avoid conflict at all costs. But in the event that conflict occurs, it is important that states and international communities sufficiently and equitably invest in child protection systems before, during, and after the conflict.